Do you remember the first time you watched All in the Family? That opening theme, "Those Were the Days," had this magic way of pulling you in. Archie and Edith sitting at the piano, bickering in their loving, awkward way. It was the kind of show that felt so real you almost forgot you were watching actors. And then there was Gloria, Archie's outspoken, free-spirited daughter. She wasn't just Archie's little girl. She was the voice of a new generation. But here's a story you might not know: how Sally Struthers, the actress behind Gloria, found her way into one of the most groundbreaking sitcoms of all time. But let's start in the future for a second, 2019 to be exact. ABC decided to do a live version of All in the Family. Imagine it, actors stepping into those iconic roles, performing a classic episode live for a modern audience. You'd think Sally Struthers, who lived and breathed All in the Family for years, would be thrilled. Instead, her reaction was not what you'd expect. When asked about it, she didn't hold back. "Why?" she said. "What is the point? It's a classic." Sally didn't mean to sound harsh. It wasn't about being negative. She just believed you can't recreate magic like that. All in the Family came at a moment in time that somehow turned out to be the perfect moment, she said. We had the perfect cast. We had the perfect writers. For Sally, All in the Family wasn't just a TV show. It was a phenomenon. It was bold, controversial, and raw in a way TV had never been before. And no live performance, no matter how good, could capture what the original show had. She had a point, didn't she? Can anyone really replace Carol O'Connor as Archie Bunker, or Jean Stapleton as Edith? Sally didn't think so. "Nobody is going to be Carol O'Connor," she said. "Nobody but nobody is going to be another Jean Stapleton." It wasn't just about talent. It was about chemistry. That cast worked together like puzzle pieces that just fit. But how did Sally fit into that puzzle in the first place? Let's go back to the beginning. Sally wasn't always a famous TV star. In fact, her early years couldn't have been more ordinary or more challenging. She was born in Portland, Oregon on July 28, 1947. Her childhood? Not exactly storybook material. Her parents separated when she was in the 3rd grade, and they didn't officially divorce until she was 17. Her dad was a doctor, but he wasn't around much. Sally adored him, though, and she got creative just to spend time with him. She'd pretend to be sick so he'd come over to check on her. Funny enough, that little game of make-believe may have been her first acting role. At first, Sally wanted to follow in her father's footsteps and become a doctor. But when she realized that cutting people open wasn't her thing, she shifted gears. She got into art and even won a college scholarship for it. But after a while, she started to feel like art wasn't the right fit either. She wanted something more, something bigger. That's when she decided to apply to the Pasadena Playhouse College of Theater Arts. And guess what? She got in, with a scholarship. At the Pasadena Playhouse, Sally threw herself into acting. She played everything from little kids to old women. She learned makeup, dancing, dialects, everything she needed to know to become a great actress. But even with all that training, breaking into Hollywood wasn't easy. After she graduated, she spent 3 years scraping by, doing whatever it took to pay the bills. She worked as a waitress, a receptionist, and even sold popcorn at a movie theater. She'd audition for anything and everything, but the big break just wouldn't come. It wasn't all bad, though. In 1968, Sally landed a couple of small roles in films. Unfortunately, neither movie ever got released. Then came a string of bad luck that could have crushed anyone's spirit. She booked a commercial, but the company decided not to air it. She got cast in a role on the Jonathan Winters show, but the show got canceled before she ever got to film her part. At one point, she was broke, her father had passed away, and she had no idea how she was going to make it. And then, just when things seemed hopeless, Sally caught a break. She got a tiny part in the Jack Nicholson film 5 Easy Pieces. It was only about 5 minutes of screen time, but people noticed her. Suddenly, doors started to open. She booked a few TV gigs, including a role as Pebbles Flintstone in the Pebbles and Bam Bam show. For a while, it seemed like things were finally coming together. But the real turning point came in 1971 when Sally auditioned for a new sitcom called All in the Family. The show was different from anything else on TV at the time. It was bold, edgy, and unafraid to tackle big issues like racism, sexism, and generational conflict. Norman Lear, the show's creator, was looking for the perfect actress to play Gloria, Archie Bunker's spirited, opinionated daughter. When Sally walked into the audition, Norman saw something in her. She had the warmth, the humor, and the spark he was looking for. Sally got the part, and just like that, her life changed forever. This was it, the role that would make her a star. But at the time, Sally had no idea just how big All in the Family was going to be. She didn't know she was about to become part of TV history. All she knew was that she finally had a chance to show the world what she could do. Sally stepped onto the set with excitement and nerves swirling inside her. She had beaten out nearly 100 other actresses to land the role of Gloria Stivic, Archie Bunker's headstrong but kind-hearted daughter. She was chosen not just for her talent, but for the spark she brought to the character. Sally could laugh about it later, saying she had dated her on-screen husband Rob Reiner briefly in real life before either of them ever dreamed they'd end up playing a married couple. It was one of those strange coincidences that only Hollywood could create. The early days on set were filled with learning curves and surprises. Sally quickly realized just how daring the show was. All in the Family wasn't your typical feel-good sitcom. It tackled racism, sexism, and politics head-on, often with a boldness that left audiences stunned. For Sally, it was thrilling to be part of something so groundbreaking, but it was also challenging. She wanted Gloria to be more than just a cheerleader for her husband's ideals or a foil to Archie's rants. At first, though, that's exactly how the character was written. In the beginning, Gloria didn't have much depth. She'd often be caught in the crossfire between her father and her husband, siding with one or the other without much of her own voice. Sally loved playing Gloria, but she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to her character than what audiences were seeing. She wanted Gloria to be independent, to have her own point of view. But at that time, she kept those thoughts to herself. After all, the show was still finding its footing. And boy, did it find its footing. After a slow start in the ratings, All in the Family exploded in popularity. By the end of its first season, it was the talk of the town. People couldn't stop buzzing about Archie's outrageous opinions or Edith's endearing naivety. And Gloria? She became the glue that held it all together, a relatable bridge between the old-fashioned views of her father and the progressive ideals of her husband. Sally's performance brought heart and warmth to the role, and viewers loved her for it. Still, as the show climbed to the top of the ratings, Sally couldn't shake her frustration with Gloria's limited role. While Archie, Edith, and Mike had fully developed personalities, Gloria often felt like a background character. Sally found herself wondering, who was Gloria really? She didn't just want to play Archie's daughter or Mike's wife. She wanted to bring Gloria to life as her own person. That turning point came a few years into the series. Sally realized that if she wanted Gloria to grow, she'd have to speak up. And speak up she did. She approached the producers with her concerns, asking them to give Gloria more substance. Sally wanted Gloria to feel like a real woman, someone with dreams, flaws, and her own identity. At first, the conversation wasn't easy, but over time, the writers began to listen. Slowly but surely, Gloria's character started to evolve. The changes didn't just help Gloria, they helped Sally too. As Gloria became more well-rounded, Sally found herself more connected to the role. She felt proud to bring the character to life in a way that resonated with audiences. And those audiences weren't just watching the show, they were deeply invested in it. Sally would walk down the street and hear people shouting Gloria's name, asking about Archie or Mike as if they were real people. Fans were so convinced by her on-screen marriage to Rob Reiner that they often assumed they were married in real life. Even when Sally explained that her real-life husband was someone else entirely, some people refused to believe her. Being part of such a wildly successful show came with its perks, but it also came with its challenges. Fame was a double-edged sword. Sally and her castmates could no longer go out in public without being recognized, and the pressure to maintain the show's success was constant. For Sally, though, the rewards far outweighed the struggles. She found herself working alongside some of the most talented people in the industry, including Carroll O'Connor and Gene Stapleton. Carroll, who played Archie, became more than just a co-star to Sally. He became like a second father. Sally had lost her own father not long before joining the show, and she was still grieving when she stepped onto the set. Carroll took her under his wing, offering advice, support, and plenty of hugs. Sally later said that working with Carroll and his wife Nancy felt like gaining a new family. He even introduced Sally to her husband, which only deepened their bond. Gene Stapleton, who played Edith, also left a profound impact on Sally. Gene's quiet strength and grace became a guiding example for Sally, both on and off screen. She admired Gene's ability to bring such depth to Edith's character while remaining humble and kind in real life. Sally often credited Gene with teaching her the importance of subtlety in acting, how to say so much with just a look or a gesture. As the years went by, Sally grew more confident in her role and more appreciative of what All in the Family had accomplished. The show didn't just entertain, it made people think. It opened up conversations about real issues, challenging viewers to see the world from different perspectives. Sally was proud to be part of a show that pushed boundaries and broke new ground. By the late 1970s, though, Sally and her co-star Rob Reiner began to feel the itch to move on. After nearly a decade of playing Gloria and Mike, they decided not to renew their contracts. For Sally, it was bittersweet. She loved the show and the people she worked with, but she was ready for a new chapter. She wanted to explore other roles, to prove to herself and the world that she could do more than play Gloria. Still, All in the Family never really left her. Even as Sally moved on to other projects, she carried the lessons she'd learned from the show with her. She remained grateful for the doors it had opened and the unforgettable memories it had given her. And as fans continued to stop her on the street, decades after the show ended, she realized just how deeply All in the Family had touched people's lives. It was more than a show. It was part of television history, and Sally's role as Gloria cemented her as a beloved figure in the hearts of viewers everywhere. After leaving All in the Family, Sally jumped into a variety of roles, determined to prove her range as an actress. Her next big step came with the TV movie Intimate Strangers. This was one of the first films to explore the issue of domestic violence on network television. Playing a physically abused housewife was a stark departure from her role as Gloria. It was a chance to tackle a serious subject and show audiences a very different side of her talent. It wasn't just about acting anymore. It was about using her platform to shed light on real-life struggles. Sally continued to surprise her fans. She took on comedic roles, dramatic parts, and even voice acting. Do you remember the Pebbles and Bam Bam show? That was Sally, lending her voice to Pebbles Flintstone as a teenager. Later, she voiced characters in Tailspin and Dinosaurs, proving that her charm wasn't limited to live-action performances. Her ability to connect with audiences, no matter the medium, kept her career alive and thriving. But Sally wasn't just busy acting. She became the face of the Christian Children's Fund, later known as Child Fund. You probably remember those heartfelt commercials where Sally spoke directly to viewers about the importance of sponsoring a child. Her work with the organization spanned years and brought attention to the plight of children living in poverty around the world. For Sally, it wasn't just a job, it was a calling. She credited her grandmother for inspiring her interest in helping others, and she embraced the chance to make a difference on such a large scale. Of course, Sally's life wasn't all work. She found time for love and family, too. She married psychiatrist William Rader in 1977, and they had a daughter, Samantha. Although the marriage ended in divorce a few years later, Sally remained close to her daughter and focused on balancing her career with motherhood. It wasn't always easy, but Sally tackled it all with the same determination she brought to every role she played. In the 1980s, Sally returned to television with a recurring role on 9 to 5, the series adaptation of the popular movie. She played Marcia McMurray Shrimpton, adding her comedic touch to the workplace comedy. Around the same time, she appeared in The Odd Couple, the female version of Neil Simon's classic play. Touring for the production was grueling, but Sally embraced the challenge, even when it meant being away from home. For her, acting wasn't just a career. It was a passion she couldn't imagine giving up. Her love for the stage grew stronger over the years. Sally became a regular performer in theater productions across the country. From starring in Annie to playing Dolly Levi in the 50th anniversary tour of Hello, Dolly, she found joy in connecting with live audiences. Theater gave her a chance to showcase her versatility and reminded her why she fell in love with acting in the first place. Even in recent years, she has continued to appear in productions, including Young Frankenstein, keeping her name and talent alive in the entertainment world. And then there was Gilmore Girls. As Babette Dell, Sally brought her signature warmth and humor to the quirky town of Stars Hollow. Fans of all ages fell in love with her portrayal of the eccentric, big-hearted neighbor. For many younger viewers, this role became their introduction to Sally's work, and it added another layer to her already impressive career. Sally loved hearing how mothers and daughters bonded over Gilmore Girls, sharing their favorite moments from the show with her whenever they met her. In 2024, Sally stepped back into the spotlight with the Netflix series A Man on the Inside. The show, a heartwarming dramedy, allowed her to play Virginia, a bold and lively resident of a retirement home. Working alongside Ted Danson and an incredible cast of veteran actors, Sally found herself energized by the project. She described the experience as a gift, especially after the quiet years that had followed her time on Gilmore Girls. It was a reminder that her talent and presence still had a place in today's entertainment landscape. Sally's career has been a journey filled with ups and downs, but she's always faced them with resilience and gratitude. She often reflects on how much All in the Family shaped her life, not just by giving her fame, but by teaching her what it meant to tell stories that mattered. The lessons she learned from Carol O'Connor, Gene Stapleton, and the entire cast stayed with her, guiding her through every role she took on. Even now, Sally shows no signs of slowing down. Whether she's on stage, in front of the camera, or lending her voice to a character, she continues to share her talent with the world. Her motto is simple: you rest, you rust. And Sally Struthers has no plans to rest anytime soon.